Welcome to Daily Book Insight. Today, we're diving into something that affects every single one of us, every single day, our attention. You know, in the world we live in now, attention isn't just a thing we have, it's a currency. It's probably the most valuable and most hunted resource we own. Every app, every ad, every notification is in an all-out war to capture a piece of it. So today, we're going to learn how to take it back.
All right, to kick things off, let's try a little experiment right now. Wherever you are, just pause for a second. Get comfortable. If you can, maybe close your eyes. And now, just take a long, slow breath in and let it out. Let's do one more. A deep breath in, feel your lungs expand, and release. So, why did you do that? I'm going to bet that most of you just did it, right? The reason is actually pretty simple, but it's also incredibly profound. For those few seconds, I captured your attention. You did it because I had your focus. This tiny little experiment proves the fundamental rule of our modern world. Attention is the gateway. If someone has your attention, they can literally influence what you do next.
And this brings us to something called the attention economy. It's this massive, invisible system that's built on one thing: competing for your focus. Companies know that if they can just hold your attention, they can get you to buy things. I mean, think about this. Research shows over half of us will just leave a website if it takes more than 3 seconds to load. And Amazon? They calculated that a 1-second delay, just 1 second, could cost them $1.6 billion a year. That's how much a single second of your focus is worth.
The author of the book we're exploring today, Hyperfocus, is Chris Bailey. And let me tell you, he was feeling this pressure big time. He said he felt like he was just trapped in a series of screens, from his phone screen first thing in the morning, to his computer screen all day at work, to even his smartwatch screen just to check the time. His focus was just being shattered into a million pieces. And he realized that this constant digital noise was just draining his creativity and tanking his productivity. So he went on this whole mission to figure out how to master his own attention.
Now, to really get a sense of the challenge we're up against, let's look at some numbers. Neuroscientists have figured out that our brains are receiving about 11 million bits of information from our environment every single second. Every sight, every sound, every feeling, it's all pouring in. 11 million pieces of data every second.
Okay, but here's the kicker. Out of those 11 million bits that are bombarding us, how many can our conscious brain actually handle at one time? Just 40. That is it. It's like trying to drink from a fire hose with a tiny straw. This tiny little window is what the author calls our attentional space, and every app on your phone is fighting to get into one of those 40 precious slots.
So what do we do about this? Well, that's our roadmap for today. We're going to break down the 2 critical modes of our mind. We'll learn how to master hyperfocus, that's the laser, then we'll unlock scatterfocus, that's the muse, and finally, we'll talk about how to recharge our brains so we can actually do any of this effectively.
All right, part 1, the 2 modes of focus. Let's dig into the core idea of the book, which is that the solution isn't just about trying harder to focus, it's about mastering 2 completely different but equally important mental states.
So these 2 modes are hyperfocus and scatterfocus. Think of hyperfocus like a laser beam. It's when you point all of that limited attentional space onto one single important task. This is your brain in full-on productivity mode. But then you've got scatterfocus, which is more like a floodlight. This is when you deliberately let your mind wander and roam free. This is your brain's creative mode, the space where it connects old ideas to create new ones. And here's the thing, you need both to thrive.
Part 2, Mastering Hyperfocus. All right, let's start with the laser. How do we actually get into that state of deep, productive work that we all crave? Well, it all comes down to directing our attention with pure intention.
Before we can direct our focus, we have to know where to aim it. The author gives us this really useful 4-quadrant grid. The goal is to spend as much time as possible in the top 2 boxes, doing necessary stuff like paying the bills, and purposeful stuff like working on a passion project or learning a new skill. The bottom 2 are the traps, right? The unnecessary tasks and the distracting ones like mindlessly scrolling. And get this, studies show we spend up to 40% of our day on autopilot. 40%! The goal is to wake up and consciously choose to live in those top 2 quadrants.
Okay, so you've picked a purposeful task. How do you actually get into that hyperfocus zone? Well, Chris Bailey gives us a simple 4-step recipe. Step 1, choose one and only one meaningful thing to focus on. Step 2, eliminate every distraction you possibly can. Put the phone in another room, close those 50 browser tabs. Step 3, focus only on that one thing.
And step 4, and this is the most important part, whenever your mind wanders, and trust me, it will, you just gently, without judging yourself, bring it back to the task. It's a practice, not a perfect performance.
Part 3, unlocking scatter focus. Now, for the other side of the coin, the one we usually ignore or even feel guilty about, this is scatter focus, the art of intentional mind wandering. If hyperfocus is the laser, scatter focus is when you step back and listen to your inner muse. And this isn't about being lazy, it's a creative superpower.
And you can see the power of this mode all throughout history. I mean, think about some of the world's greatest breakthroughs. Newton wasn't hunched over a desk when he came up with a theory of gravity, he was just chilling under a tree. Archimedes had his famous eureka moment in the bathtub. Our absolute best ideas often show up not when we're trying to force them, but when our mind is relaxed and free. That is scatter focus in action.
So, how can we trigger this creative mode on demand? The secret is to engage in what you might call productive rest. This means doing simple, low-effort things that occupy you just enough so you don't get bored and grab your phone, but not so much that they take up all your attention. We're talking about things like going for a walk, washing the dishes, taking a long shower, or just listening to some music without lyrics. These kinds of activities let your conscious mind take a break, which gives your subconscious the room it needs to make those brilliant, unexpected connections.
Part 4. Recharging your brain. Okay, look. Whether you're trying to use the laser of hyperfocus or the muse of scatterfocus, neither one is going to work if your brain's battery is on 0. Before you can direct your attention, you have to have attention to direct. So let's talk about recharging that mental energy.
Now, what is so wild about this slide is the incredible impact of just one single habit. Yeah, taking breaks and practicing mindfulness, they're good, they help, but they are completely dwarfed by the single most powerful way to recharge your brain. According to the research, getting a full night of quality sleep, we're talking 7 to 8 hours, can increase your attentional space for the entire next day by a whopping 58%. Sleeping just 1 hour less is like losing 2 full hours of productivity the next day. It is the foundation of everything. All right, here's another powerful and kind of weird way to build your focus. Our brains these days aren't just distracted, they're completely overstimulated. We're hooked on these constant little hits of dopamine from notifications and funny videos. To fight back, the author suggests we intentionally practice low stimulation. This means choosing to be bored to strengthen your attention muscle. He did some extreme stuff, like reading the iTunes terms and conditions for an hour. You don't have to go that far, but maybe just try watching a video all the way to the end, even after you feel that urge to click away. Learning to tolerate boredom builds the mental toughness you need for deep focus.
Part 5, your key takeaways. Okay, we have covered a ton of ground. We've seen how our attention is under attack. We've learned about the 2 powerful modes of focus, and we've talked about how to recharge our brains. So let's pull it all together into a clear strategy you can use to build a more intentional life.
Here it is, your toolkit for mastering your attention. First, start treating your attention like it's more valuable than your money, because honestly, it is. Second, be deliberate about how you use your mind. Plan for those intense hyperfocus sessions, but also schedule time for that creative scatter focus. Third, use that 4-quadrant grid to prioritize tasks that are truly purposeful and necessary. Fourth, make quality sleep a non-negotiable part of your life. And finally, build your resistance to distraction. Practice low stimulation and learn to just be okay with being bored sometimes.
In the end, all of these tips and tricks really boil down to one powerful central idea from the book, and that is, the quality of your attention determines the quality of your life. It's that simple. Whatever you choose to focus on, or whatever you allow to capture your focus, that literally becomes your reality. If your attention is scattered and chaotic, your life is going to feel scattered and chaotic. But if your attention is intentional, deep, and pointed at what truly matters, your life will reflect that same clarity and purpose. Of course, the most important step is moving this from an idea to an action. So I'm going to leave you with one final question to really think about. When you consider your goals, your relationships, your health, what is the one thing that deserves more of your focused attention, starting tomorrow? If you found this insight valuable, please like, subscribe, and share it with your family and friends who want to upgrade their life. Thanks for watching.